Hi, I'm Bruce Gordon with Webucator. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to create a basic web part in Visual Studio 2010 for a SharePoint 2010 site. So let's get started. So I've got a SharePoint 2010 site set up here. Let me bring this up in my browser. This is running on a virtual machine. Log in. So it's very basic install. I don't really have anything added to it at this point. So what I want to do is create a custom web part using Visual Studio that I can add onto this home page. So I'm going to go ahead and close down this home page for now and open up an instance of Visual Studio 2010. I'll go ahead and define a new project. And for this one, I'm going to use an empty SharePoint project template to start with. Call it something like Northwind Web Part Demo. And one of the things that Visual Studio 2010 wants to ask me is what site do I want to use for debugging. I've got it pointing to the current default SharePoint site here on my server. And for this I need to also deploy it as a farm solution because I'm going to be doing some database access with this web part. Click on Finish. And now what I want to do is add a web part template to this project that I've created. So I'm going to click on my project, click on Add, choose New Item, and then pick the web part template. Give my web part a name. Categories list part, I'll call it. And this creates a basic web part class for me. It inherits from the base web part class. And I'm just going to add a little bit of code into this class. I'm going to use a little bit of database access. I've got Northwind's database installed on the server. I'm going to add a using then for system.data.sql client. And then I'll add a little bit of code in here to make my connection. I'm going to cheat just a little bit and grab my connection string from Server Explorer. Normally put the connection string in probably a more central location, but for simplicity's sake I'm just going to put it right into the code here. And I'll start off with a using block so it'll clean up my connection for me. So I'm going to define a SQL connection. Copy my connection string into that. Finish off my block there. Go ahead and define a query. And we'll select category ID and category name from categories. And let's see, the next thing I'll do is go ahead and create, oops, I've got one little thing I need to do up here. So I need to either escape this backslash or I'll just put an @ symbol at the beginning of it, which will escape anything in the string for me, any backslashes. Now let's back down to my command is the next thing I need. So let me create a command object. And we'll add my query into the constructor and the connection object. So my command object should be ready to go. Go ahead and open my connection. And I want to fire my query, but the results I want to return back into a control that I'm going to be adding into this control collection. This whole method that I'm working this code inside of was created for me. It's overriding the base's create child controls method, and what I'm going to do is create my visual controls, in this case just a simple list box. So I'll just call it list. equals new list box. And the list box, I'm going to set its data source equal to my commands execute reader. So it will consume the results of the reader and load it into the data source of the list box. I do need to call data bind on list box. Let me set a couple properties. Actually, before I even do the data bind of the list box, I'll set the display, actually the data text field member equal to the category name. Since there's two fields coming back in the query, I need to tell it which ones I want to display and possibly which ones I might want to store. So I'll store the category ID and display the category name. So that should be pretty much what I need, all I need for my query. I need to go ahead and take the list box that I've created and add it into the controls collection of this web part. So type in controls, add list. So this should get it into the rendered output of the web part. Now we could definitely do a good bit more refactoring and make this code more robust, but for demonstration purposes this should work. Now before I actually deploy this, I'm going to set a couple of things that are going to show up. For example, the name or the group that my web part's going to show up in the web part catalog. I kind of want to give that something other than custom, so I'm going to give this my own name. I'll call it Northwind Web Parts. Save that file. So I edited the elements.xml file to get that. I can edit the categories list part web part file, and this one I can set the title as well as the description. So maybe I'll set this one as I'll just make it look a little bit better, categories list part, and maybe give it a little bit better description. Northwind categories list. And now all I got to do to package and deploy this is really run it in debug mode. So if I click on my start debugging or press my F5 key, Visual Studio will handle packaging for me and deploying it out to my SharePoint site. And in a minute, hopefully, my browser will open up. You have to log in. And let's see when the home page comes up if I can add this new web part to the home page. There's my home page. So I want to come up here to Site Actions, choose Edit Page, and in the Edit page, in this little Editing Tools toolbar here at the top, I'm going to click on the Insert button, come down here to tell it I want to insert a web part, and in my list of categories, I can see my Northwind web parts listed here. I can see my categories list part as the only item in that group. So I'm going to just click on Add. And if everything works correctly, I can exit edit mode, save and close, and we can already see the web part is showing inside the main page. So it is definitely working, and I've got data from my Northwind database as a web part built into my page. So it's got all the basic properties of a web part, the Chrome, the title that I can go in and change if I wish to. I can also move this around on the page in different web part zones, and I can use it additionally on other web pages with web part zones. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to post a response on my blog. And once again, I'm Bruce Gordon with Webucator. Thanks for watching.